What's going on, everybody? Welcome to After Prison Show. And today I want to talk to you guys about a story in the news that I'm sure you guys are seeing, but definitely deserves some addressing. And what this relates to is a couple of states just legalizing things that weren't before legal, mainly the devil's lettuce. States such as Arizona, New Jersey, and South Dakota during this election time just legalized marijuana for recreational use. Yeah, and that's crazy to think, like South Dakota, New Jersey, Arizona, all of those states sound like they would be pretty tough on drug enforcement laws, but then again, here we are. It's 2020, times are changing. And more importantly than these three states that have just legalized marijuana is the real pickle that I want to talk with you guys about here today, and that is Oregon. Oregon has just legalized everything. Everything in the state of Oregon is now legal. You can no longer be charged for it. And I want to start with this story that I'm running across talking about just this. This was published in my local news. You know, I'm on the East Coast, Oregon's on the West Coast, but the clickbait picture that they used to accompany this story is of these two boulder-sized amounts of methamphetamine. That looks like that's about a pound right there. I don't necessarily know, but that's a damn sure hell of a lot more, in my personal opinion. That's a hell of a lot more than some personal use right there. And you mean to tell me Oregon done made crystal meth legal? But before we go any further with that, I want to get back to this picture that, again, they used to bait this news story. I don't know if that was just my local news doing this, or maybe this is the national photo that the news is using to bait this story with, again, more crystal meth then I guarantee you could argue in court is only simply personal use. Recreational use? Is there such a thing as a recreational use or a person? Okay, I'm getting way off topic with this. Let me rewind. I first ran across this on Twitter. I saw that this was trending. This was getting a shit ton of attention, as it should. Arizona, South Dakota, New Jersey just legalized marijuana. Oregon said, well, look at what I can do. I would run across this story on Twitter. I would retweet this saying, makes sense, recreational use. And I was making a joke about this. A lot of people would punch me in the face on Twitter saying, Joe, you know, this is a great thing that Oregon is doing because this goes toward helping people with addiction or whatever that they were saying about this. I'm going to speak some very candid views on this. You may agree, you may not agree. I don't expect everybody to agree with the way that I feel, but one thing that I hope you will respect or appreciate, you don't got to respect it, but maybe just appreciate, is the fact that I'm going to share the way that I feel no matter what. And off tops, do I feel like what Oregon is doing, legalizing all drugs, do I feel like that's the right thing to do? No. Not at all. What are we going to do? We're going to have pop-up dispensaries for the crystal meth, the cocaine, and the heroin? Are you going to be able to just go into the store and buy this? Are they going to have government-grade cocaine that they're able to tax? 2020 has been a wild year. Now, let's go ahead and dig deeper with this. I do know that quite a few people are going to say, you know, addiction is a very serious thing. I agree with that 100%. I make jokes about addiction from time to time. And I'm going to speak on that a little bit further in this, but I do take addiction serious. And I know all too well that a lot of times addiction is bigger than the person. You know, it takes a village or something along those lines. So I get what they're trying to do. What they're doing, as the story would say, is Oregon wants to, you know what, let's just go ahead and read this story. Oregon becomes first state to decriminalize hard drugs. Look at all that crystal meth right there that they're showing. They said 50 years after the war on drugs began in the 70s, Oregon voters decided on an alternative path, decriminalizing for user amounts of illicit substances and accompanying recovery treatment options instead of jail time. First question that I want to ask you is, I know that it costs a lot of money to incarcerate a person per year. It's like, what, $30,000 per inmate, something along those lines. I wonder if the recovery option instead of jail would be more expensive. Probably not, but it's still going to cost. Here's one of the biggest reasons why I disagree with this being the right thing to do. This is only my personal opinion. I've seen this work in my own personal life, and you're entitled to your opinion as well. But for me personally, the only way that I was able to overcome addiction and to beat it was basically being tortured, getting locked up. I got locked up for crimes that I committed. I got caught with possession with intent to distribute. I had more than a user's amount, 7 grams, which it's not like we're talking about any kilos here. But for me personally, it took me getting locked up, reaching the darkest point in my life, feeling like I didn't even want to live anymore. And I mean, I know I'm being brutal with this, but this is the truth. For me to actually realize, you know what, Joe, you got to do it different. You got to leave them drugs alone, do these 7 years, survive this, and come home and work impossibly hard to try to live a sober, productive life out here. I share that with you guys because I feel like for some, maybe not for everybody, but for some, maybe jail and prison is a real eye-opening experience and something that could definitely motivate a person to really want to do it the right way. And on the flip side of that coin, I'm using a lot of hand gestures here, forgive me for that. On the flip side, you know, I've seen people who have never gotten locked up, who have been to tens of thousands of dollars in cost for treatment programs, and they just constantly do the same thing over and over again. And that really makes me question, would it be jail or prison that could help those particular individuals? Think about it. At least right now, in most states where all hard drugs are illegal, minus Oregon, who is absolutely tripping, in my personal opinion, no pun intended, they also just legalized the shrooms for medicinal purposes. They are on some tie-dye type of time out there, and no disrespect to anybody from Oregon, and no disrespect to anybody who feels like what they're doing is the right thing. Again, this is only my opinion, and I will respect you for whatever opinion that you have, even if you say that I'm scum of the earth. I've accepted my lot in life, that some people will just always think that, no matter what I do. Damn it, I do this so often I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, but you know, I feel like in most states, there's always that risk factor. There's always that risk versus reward, and there's always that fear that you could get locked up because, okay, whether or not doing drugs should be a crime, you're really doing yourself no favors dealing with a hard drug type of an addiction. And I'm not talking about marijuana in this conversation. I'm simply talking about anything that could absolutely destroy your life. Cocaine, heroin, crystal meth, those 3 for absolute sure. But thinking about that further, you know, even that risk, the risk of getting caught, the fear of getting caught, the fear of going to prison, the fear of violating probation and having to serve 10 years, whatever it may be, even that isn't enough for a lot of people, for me as well in my past, because people will risk everything for that addiction. And again, I get that that can be bigger than a person and they may not be 100% wanting to do that. Maybe they want to do the right thing, but they can't overcome the addiction. I just personally feel like legalizing hard drugs is going to make the situation worse. You're giving people a pass to now say, oh, well, I've just got a personal amount of dope or crystal meth or cocaine. I'm a functioning user. I'm not even an addict anymore. I'm just a recreational functioning user that has to have it every single day, that might go out there and commit other crimes in an effort to get the drugs. That brings me to the next point that I want to throw into this. I was looking up crime statistics for the state of Oregon, and I wanted to look up the crimes that could, you know, possibly be related to addiction, crimes that were committed because of addiction, your burglary, your theft, those type of charges right there, your vehicle crimes. You know, in 2019, Oregon was one of the top 10 states for crimes committed against a vehicle, maybe a stolen car or something along those lines. And I know that not in every single case will it be drug related, drug fueled, but you got to believe that in a lot of cases it is. And now, with the fact that we're going to try this alternative method, let's legalize everything, make treatment, you know, an option. Slap on the wrist, there is no risk at all because it's now legal. I wonder if in the next couple of years, are they going to see these type of crimes, your vandalism, your burglary, your vehicle thefts? I wonder if they're going to see these type of crimes increase. And I'll say this as well, I could be wrong about all of this. I'm not saying that I've got the infinite answer to this. Oh no, that's wrong. They should be doing it this way. This is merely just my opinion. I almost called somebody on accident. That would have been bad. I've never done that. I've never butt dialed anybody while filming a video, but there's a first for everything. I want to share this as well. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that, I've made fun of addiction. I take addiction very seriously. Joe, how can you take addiction very seriously if you make fun of people who are dealing with addiction? I don't always do that. I have done that, and that is low of me. I will admit that. To justify it, or at least the way that I've tried to justify it is, if you do something and okay, let me try to explain this with my full rationale, which could be flawed. People who have been a part of After Prison Show who have constantly failed because of drugs or done even worse in relation to drugs, and I would just leave it at that. When you've done even worse, and I mean like, selling drugs, like really being in that life, and this is no shot toward Jellicoe because I know everybody's going to think that's who I'm talking about. I'm just speaking in general. Yes, I have made fun of him. Well, we're talking about him. We're just going to go this route. Yeah, I've made fun of him, made songs about it. And I mean, really, that's not even about the addiction. That's about a whole different side of this. We're talking about being in the life, whatever. But my rationale for doing that would be, well, if I'm going to make fun of that or that person or that situation, maybe that'll deter somebody else from doing that because maybe they'll view that as dumb, stupid, the wrong thing to do. And more importantly, it would be a young person, or maybe it'll be anybody. It doesn't matter. Maybe if it's somebody who's thinking about that, you know what, times are tough right now, whatever, maybe I need to go out there and make some easy money. Maybe a song or a joke or something would pop up into their mind. And I know that that is very optimistically thinking, very hopeful thinking, very wishful thinking right there. But maybe me making a joke of the situation helps one person. No hero role intended, no cape on my shoulders. That was just my rationale, as flawed as it may be. Addressing that, now getting back to Oregon and what they're doing out there. I ask all of you, do you think that this is going to be helpful? Will this reduce crime? Of course, your drug crimes are going to go way down, but will other crimes go up as an effect to this cause? I sort of feel like a little bit of a professor doing this because I know I'm hitting on some decent points. Or maybe that's all in my head. Also, what about people who are currently locked up right now for possession? Do all of a sudden they get released? Do their crimes get dismissed? Do their charges get dismissed? Do we retroactively dismiss all drug convictions? Do we wipe the record clean? People who are on probation and having to attend drug treatment classes because of possession? How does probation work? You're basically rewriting the entire manuscript out here in Oregon. Will this be a manuscript that other states will follow? I like to believe, and I don't know this to be the gospel, but I like to believe that Oregon had always been one of the most lenient states. And I may be getting this confused with Washington, but between Oregon or Washington, they're two different states, right? Oregon's not like the capital of Washington. I'm kidding, kind of. I almost thought that might be. I've always known that between those two states, they've always been on the lesser side of the severity scale in terms of crime versus punishment. And a perfect example of that is, I can't remember if it's Washington or if it's Oregon. It's one of those two. But you could have your license suspended in all 50 states. But no matter what, you can get that license back in Oregon or Washington. Something like that. Like if your license is suspended in a state and any other state will honor whatever state that your license is suspended in, Oregon or Washington, and it might be Washington, I'm leaning more toward the W, might be the only state where you could go and get a license again. And real quick, just to share a little bit more from this story of what's going on out in Oregon, they've approved a measure called 110, which decriminalizes possession of small amounts of heroin, cocaine, LSD, Oxycontin, and some other drugs. What other drugs? You didn't mention crystal meth, which you got those two big boulders of a thumbnail for this story. I wonder if that's on the list. This measure makes Oregon the first state in the nation to decriminalize hard drugs, along with the legislation of therapeutic use of psilocybin mushrooms. And I know I probably mispronounced that, but we're talking about the shroomy shrooms. Crazy. Oregon's like Woodstock. The initiative will reclassify personal drug possession to an E-class violation with a maximum $100 fine. It does not affect people selling or manufacturing illegal drugs. People caught with user amounts of drugs could get a fine waived by completing a health assessment during which they could be connected with treatment, recovery, and housing services. I like the sound of that right there. I think that that sounds great. I think that, you know, considering the fact that where most states will punish you by sending you to jail or prison for a user's amount of narcotics, and that's still not being enough to deter people from going and getting high and getting caught with these drugs and ruining their lives with these addictions. I think that what Oregon is doing is definitely unorthodox, thinking outside of the box, and really trying to see if this is going to work. I'm sure that if it doesn't, they'll regroup and rethink what they're doing out there, but hopefully it does. It sounds like they're doing this with and for the right intentions, and you might ask yourself, well, how are they going to afford to do this? Treatment's got to be expensive, housing's got to be expensive. You may be as interested as I was to learn that where this money is coming from is from the revenue generated from the sale of legal marijuana in their state. You know, if marijuana was on the stock market, it might actually be, but if it was, yesterday that stock would have just went through the roof with the legalization in a couple of other states that might have never even thought that something like that was going to happen. Arizona, South Dakota, and New Jersey. Wonder why Virginia's taking so long. Joe could probably benefit from a little marijuana, a little of the ganja in my own life. Could help with the anxiety and the stress, probably for sure. I share all of this with you because I want to know what you guys think about this. Am I too abrasive? Am I coming off too strong with this? Am I dead wrong for the way that I feel? But are you brave enough to agree with me down in the comments if you do? I'll look forward to hearing what you guys have to say, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did so, please leave a like and a comment letting me know exactly what you thought about this. And as always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted, and make the most of every day. Peace!